my goal is to try to get people who can't understand where we're coming from, where you see what's going on in the world right now.
I panicked a little bit.
Hey man, it brings back the old days.
But
I was always ready to go. Like, oh, anytime you show up to the party with this, it better be drinkable.
oh, there's that cinnamon.
But anyway, man, moving on, dude. So something else I kind of wanted to touch on, and maybe this will be a bigger subject at some point, but it was kind of boredom, man, and the thought of boredom. You know, everyone gets bored at some time, but is boredom a good thing? Can it be a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I kind of went back and forth with James a little bit about it. And so I'll just start it off with saying, man, for me, I've always kind of looked at if I'm bored, and it depends on how you look at bored, right? Bored is like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm just like, I'm calling random people I haven't hung out with in years. Like, the fuck you been up to? You know what I mean? Just trying to find a way out of it. But a lot of times I think what could be perceived as being bored is me, like I'm watching movies. But I love to watch movies. It's one of my favorite things. The sweater I'm wearing right here from one of my favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? I absolutely love it. So James kind of enlightened me on something, and he kind of was like, hey, I think sometimes being bored is where you can make progress. You know what I mean? It's kind of where you think. It's kind of where you plan, and you can kind of do something. And I thought, well, shit, you know, good point. And I guess me and my boredom usually is like, I'm gonna watch this movie. I'm gonna listen to some music or something like that I want to do. That when I'm busy, I don't have the time to do. I guess initially I was more, like I said, looking at it as like that. I'm just really like out of fucking options. You know what I mean? So I'd like to turn it over to you guys and see kind of how you view boredom.
Yeah. You wanna go?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm at the age and the point in my life where if I'm bored, I'm frustrated as well. Like
Yeah.
I am like, I can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Like I gotta designate a certain day, like maybe to do nothing. But for the most part, if I'm bored, I'm irritated. I'm like, fuck. Like I can't. What am I gonna do? I don't want to watch anything. There's times for movies for me, but for the most part, I hate being like idle. You know,
Sure.
I gotta find something to do. I don't care what it is. I'll do like some unnecessary shit. Like I'll be vacuuming the garage, you know, because this is like my space.
Yeah. No.
But like I find something to do because I would rather. And to me, what boredom is to me is more mental.
Yeah. I agree.
If I'm bored, it's like this is not working. Like my brain is slowed down too far, and I'm like, okay, I gotta pick this shit up. I'm thinking about nothing. What should I plan? What should I like aim towards? Should I read a book? Should I listen to some good shit? What should I do? And for me, boredom is like one of those areas where it sucks that I get irritated, but it's just what I do. And it hasn't always been like that. I definitely like to I love to binge watch TV series that are good. I'd like to watch good movies, but for me, it's like, I gotta get up. I gotta move. I gotta do something. If I'm not being productive early and often, I'm not a fun person to be around for Crystal. For everybody else, they get the same James, but for her, like I'll get irritated.
Well, I'd imagine too, being around other people kind of takes away the boredom. When you're constantly around someone, I think it's easier to then look at like, well, fuck, I gotta do something. You know what I mean? But like, only reason I say this is like because if I come over here, you know, you're not going to be bored. I'm going to be like, well, okay, well, let's do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't come over here to fucking stare at you. You know what I mean? Like that. We're not going to do that. I think when you have like a partner though, yeah, that a lot of times you end up kind of like, well, what the fuck are we doing? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just to touch on something real quick that I meant to say initially is for me, when I have nothing to do, what I find myself doing is just overthinking stupid shit that I shouldn't be focused on. And lately I've identified, and even after talking to you about this initially, James, a couple of days ago, I found myself, I've had some situations where overthinking was something I was trying very hard to avoid. And so therefore, I didn't get, like you said, I didn't give a fuck. I'd get up like, no, I'll do the dishes. I'll do this. You know what I mean? Whatever it may be. I just needed to do something to keep my mind busy because I do overthink. And as we've discussed here before, so if you give me that time to do nothing, all I will do is that, and that's detrimental in my own well-being. You know what I mean? So I like I said, if I want to watch a movie, and me, I think, you know, and I get to like I can't sit there all day and just watch movies. I feel like I haven't got out of bed in 6 hours. You know what I mean?
And see, we're the opposite, because the more you come down, your brain revs up.
Yeah.
But for me, the more I come down, the more my brain revs down.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
We'll see.
So we're opposite in that sense, but we still need that stimulation and that to get out of that.
I wouldn't agree with that, because I don't think my brain revs down. I think when I'm busy, my brain is focused on other things, right?
And okay, and when I'm saying,
just
to
it.
clarify,
Yeah.
when you slow down, you start overthinking. And I used to be like you, but for me now, my brain is more quiet. So when I rev down, all my thinking stops.
Yeah, I wish I could ever stop.
So
it gets overwhelming.
My shit goes like my overthinking and all that, because I overthink when I'm revving. My brain's overthinking up here, but when I rev down, it slows down.
When I'm up here, I'm working on. I have many things I'm doing. I don't have time to think about anything else. For example, take Instagram. I like a lot of people I know that don't really do a whole lot, or on Instagram all fucking day. You know what I mean? We've talked about it before. Whereas when I'm going, I have no time to think about Instagram. I don't give a fuck about. I get annoyed with my phone going off. Like, oh, fuck, I can't look at it right now. But again, that's me, and like I'm not a person that can focus on one task at a time. Like I have to, if I want to do this task. So even getting prepared for, I was telling Travis, prepare for tonight's episode. I can't just sit down and try to write notes out. I have to be working on 2 separate segments. I have to be watching this up here. My phone has to be here, and I'm fucking sending people shit. I have to be doing things in order to do one thing. I have to do 4 things to do one thing, which it's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
But also, it's like a good thing for me. But it's when I don't have that distraction to focus, which seems so weird. I have to be distracted to focus, you know? I was dating a chick once, and I remember we were going to school together. And like I'd be like, hey, I got to write this paper. I got to write the, you know, we got to do it, and it's due tomorrow. And she's like, you need to sit down. And I'm like, no, like I need everyone in here. I need the TV on. I need like, give me a fucking drink. You know what I mean? I need to just not think to think, you know what I mean? And then I can think well. It's very weird. You know what I mean? But again, I think the point that we're taking away though, is that when I have absolutely nothing, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, and see and we'll kick it to Travis right now in a second, but example from today. I'm sitting out here. I got off a meeting on a phone call from work. I'm sitting out in the garage, and then Crystal calls me, and we're planning to buy a house, right? So we and her are talking. We're talking about buying a house and our budget and what we're looking for. Everything. The conversation is flowing with idea and potential, right? And it's going, and then it stops. And she goes, what are you thinking about? And I was like, I'm just thinking about like building this cabinet, like, and how the pieces, and I'm thinking like how the pieces totally fit, and the what I need to do to make everything fit. And she's like, what?
Yeah. What the fuck?
And I'm like, no, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like my brain is revving up. So when you get like, if you get me to a point where my brain is revving, it's like all of a sudden all my ideas start fighting for that RAM. Like they start fighting to get a piece. And so like literally she was like, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, thank you.
But that's
because
good.
I need to figure this out.
Because then you'll start looking at that and thinking about something else.
Yeah. You know, so it's not a bad thing, you know, but it definitely is like, I'm telling you, the more my brain's going, the more shit fights for the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I haven't always been like that.
Yeah.
So boredom has been something that is very like, you need days, but it just depends on how you process it.
Right. Yeah. And so for me, I feel like I kind of have a mix of both.
Okay, let me just say this.
Yeah.
Travis has the most amazing memory of anyone I've ever known. Like literally, like I mean, fucking. I'm like, if he says something, he's like, no, it was that. I'm like, yep, it was that. No need to check. That's what the fuck it was. Okay. So just take that. And so then I'd like to hear.
Okay. So yeah. So a part of why that is, and this kind of goes back to like a mental health thing a little bit, not to go down that road again. But it was a narrative that I had in my mind that I had a bad memory. And so I would always, like, anytime I would forget something or not be able to recall something, I'm like, man, I have such a bad memory. And it wasn't until I started like reframing that in a way that I started to notice like, no, I actually have a pretty good memory. And I think it was because I wanted to improve. But the way that I've made most progress is by journaling. I have this notebook in front of me. I've been using it for many years now. And what I do is like anytime anything comes into my head that I need to remember or like think back later or expand on, I write it down.
Can you just hold that up for the camera? real quick?
Yeah, sure. So this is the bullet journal, and I basically every day I start a new section or whatever. I have a monthly layout. I have a weekly layout, and then every day I write in my tasks, things I got to focus on. And it doesn't have to be pretty, as you can tell by my terrible handwriting.
Looks pretty good.
It looks pretty damn good to me.
James, would you show me yours? Just show me yours. This is what mine would look like. Okay.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this shit.
Yeah. So shut up. Okay.
But the idea is just it's a dump.
Mine's encoded. This is manual encoding. Like you can't. You don't know
It's
what I'm up
encrypted.
to.
Yeah,
James gave me it one day.
yeah.
Like, here, I was like, I don't know what the fuck this says. Okay.
Yeah, but it stems from the narrative that you told yourself.
Right. But this is what's helped me the most break that narrative and kind of reframe the way that I think about it. This here, anytime anything pops into my mind that I need to remember later or whatever, I just write it down. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. And the idea is like it frees up that mental bandwidth to think about things that need priority right now. And I do a reflection at the end of the day where I go over my notes and like anything that I need to remember to do or that I didn't get done, I can remind myself to do tomorrow. But it just takes that mental like burden off of myself. And in that way, I can kind of like keep focused on the things that need priority and need to be I need to be thinking about right now. So
Sure.
that's how like I'm able to kind of like, I don't know, like kind of appear laid back or at ease. It's because I don't have to constantly think about 300 things at once, because that's how my brain is. Like I said, I kind of have a combination of both of yours. Like for you, or touching on like what you said, I tend to overthink a lot of things, but I find that if I write down the things that I'm thinking about and that I'm on this like loop, I can kind of put it out and then I'll think about it later. You know what I mean? Or I'll expand on it later. And so that's one of the things that's helped me the most is just journaling. And when you hear the word journal, you think of like long form, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Today I had, tacos for breakfast or whatever, but for me, journaling is just like getting whatever's in here on here so that I don't have to think about it anymore.
So you don't have to hold that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that's helped me with boredom as well. It's, when I do get bored, I can kind of refer back to this. It's like, well, is there anything that I need to be thinking about or working on? You know what I mean? But also I will say this on boredom too. And it kind of touches on something like a bigger picture. There's this narrative that is, very prevalent in American culture, I'll say for sure, because that's what I have most experience with. But I feel like in general is that you have to be productive all the time, 100% of the time. But I feel like that's not true. And in some cases that can be bad. You know what I mean? Because you do need downtime sometimes to watch movies, you know what I mean? Or to work on your woodworking or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need that downtime and it can come across as boredom at first, but like, I think you gotta reframe what boredom means. You know what I mean? So that's one part of it. And also too, there is times where it's just straight up, there's nothing to do. Like you got nothing going on, straight up boredom. But you can also reframe that. And that's what I've tried to do is view that as an opportunity for stillness. And so one of the things that I've learned and I've been trying to practice more, and I've learned it from a book called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday, that some of the best ideas and some of the most prevalent characters in history, you have to have stillness in your life in order to progress and to keep yourself from burning out. You know what I mean? And so this book does a really good job of illustrating it. There are multiple examples from multiple people throughout history, sports figures. Winston Churchill is one of the ones that stand out to me most because I relate to that guy because he liked to party.
Carry a big stick.
Yeah. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Actually, I think that was FDR.
Saying,
yeah, but anyway, yeah.
He says, "Keep calm and steady on," or some shit like that.
Yeah, something like
Bert
that.
Kreischer just had a Churchill day.
Yeah, I listened to that too. That was awesome.
That was
so
cool.
I want to have a cigar in bed, but my wife will kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing that indoor.
Yeah.
Right.
And they gave him breakfast.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I heard. I didn't know what you guys were talking about, but I heard it too. I'm part of the club, dude.
Yeah, fair enough. So, but yeah. So anyway, I think boredom can be viewed in many different ways. You kind of have to redefine what boredom actually is. Anytime you have any kind of downtime, people try to label it as boredom, but I think that's just a byproduct of having, you know, the whole world at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And most of the time anybody has free time, they like to fill it by scrolling through Instagram or Reddit or whatever. But you know, I think it is good. It's a good thing to have like nothing to distract you and actually sit with your own thoughts for a little while.
That's a good point, because I think boredom actually lies more with the people who don't have shit going on.
You're right.
So like the people who have they're not ambitious, they don't have nothing going for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of boredom in that style of life.
Right.
For us, like boredom, we label it boredom, but it's not. It's downtime. It's free time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have shit that fills up the rest of the time, and then we take advantage of the non-agenda type
productive
stuff.
stuff.
Because one of my favorite things is like I go to work, I get up early, I go to work, I do that. I contribute to society for the day. I get off, I do the things I need to do, and then I have a little window of time. And one of my favorite things to do is just like hang out with a friend and just kind of do nothing, just watch TV or whatever I'm doing. Kind of decompress from the day, which I have found to be kind of helpful for me. You know what I mean? Kind of just sit there, relieve all of that. I don't view that as being bored. I you know what I mean? I think that's where, like, especially James, you kind of mentioned, like, if it's Crystal, then you're kind of like, because now if you guys together are sitting there and you're doing nothing, and now it's not like this release from I've done what I needed for the day. Here's my time. It's like I feel like I haven't done something for the day. That's when I think it gets annoying. And as you touched on too, I think when you're considering the fact of people who don't really have a lot to do any day, boredom, I think I said before, I think those are the people that usually like to stir up shit because they are bored. You know what I mean? So they're like, yeah, fuck it, I'll stir up some shit. I got nothing better to do.
It's all about what you choose to do with that time.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so one of my other things that I do is I like to go on YouTube, and I like to try to learn something on YouTube. You know
Flat
what I mean?
Earth videos.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Can't get enough. You know what I mean? The fuck out of here. Dude. No, but even if it was flat Earth, I have a couple friends that are into that theory. And so then, I obviously would argue with them all the time about it. And then, obviously, right? It's fucked up. But
or if you're diving real deep, it's where there's a hole where you can go into the earth.
Like inverse Earth or something. Yeah, there's a hole.
Yeah, I don't start telling these guys that. I don't need any more of that. But so even then though, like I'll take some time, and I'm like, okay, because I'm very open minded. So I'm like, you know what? Well, let me hear what you're saying. Right. Fuck it. Let me look into it. And I'm like, this is total bullshit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I do like once you get to this age, something that was said, I heard in a song the other day, Erykah Badu was saying, it was like, knowledge is infinite. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you'll never reach an end of gaining knowledge. And so I just feel like, fuck it, well, let me just try to obtain all that I can when I am bored. Like, let me make it, not necessarily something I would consider to be productive, but something semi-productive. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something that I got some benefit out of.
Or at least mentally stimulating.
Right. You know what I mean? Very least. Right, exactly.
Like watch some shit that just stimulate. Like you're never gonna, like when I watch the video of them making a cask, I'm not gonna make it. Mm-hmm. But my brain is like,
I'm interested, right? Like I'm interested. I'm learning something new. It's something I can apply to something else. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe I'm not necessarily going to do it, but I can share that information. I can do these things. Mm-hmm. I understand that now. You know, these are the things that I consider. What is it? Small talk conversation shit. Because you got those real boring small weather today. You know what I mean? And I'd rather.
Which is the worst?
I always say too, like, what route do you take to work? You know what I mean? I'm like,
that's also bad.
Fuck do you care? You know what I mean? So I'd rather fill that time then with something that I can take, and then I can try. Little things like that, I think, make a difference in your day to day. And so,
Yeah, I feel like if you. So again, it all depends on what you choose to do with that time. If you come away with it feeling like it was a waste of time and you wasted part of your day, like that's not a good feeling. You know what I mean? But if you get anything out of it, if you get, even a YouTube video, or even if you just are still and you meditate or you journal or something, like you still feel like you got something out of that time, I don't think that it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? So I think it just, like I said, it just all comes down to what you choose to do with that time. So.
I think the point that we've all kind of collectively made here is that it's very unique. It's very up to you, and what you is subjective. It's how you determine it to be value added to you, right? Which I think could kind of lead us into something else
but it's good to know that, like, when you said boredom earlier this week,
right?
We automatically think of the waste, but knowing just from having this conversation, it's more subjective than we thought before.
Yeah,
we started this conversation. That's why you have them, right?
Yeah.
So even I'm walking away with like
the takeaway.
The takeaway is like it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
So it's so to stop judging people,
kind of,
and understand what you're doing as well. So stop judging yourself.
But I don't think that we should be faulted for that, because it's like anytime you hear a word, you assume that everyone has the same definition that you do. You know what I mean? But that's, like you just said, it's subjective. It's not the case.
I'd say all of that's true unless you're that piece of shit that has nothing to do all day and then you start shit with other people
or on Twitter or whatever.
Then no, then fuck you. That's lame, man. Get up and do something better with your time. Yeah, like do something for you,
right?
Instead of stirring up shit with somebody else. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
No love on that. So with that said, I kind of want to jump into something that I feel like has a great potential to be a touchy subject for a lot of people, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I've told James many times, we're too small to get canceled. We don't really have to worry about it. We hit 110 subscribers, so we got a couple to play with. You know what I mean? I'm kidding. Don't go anywhere.
Please don't.
Anyway, though, no, man. So what we're gonna get into is something that I've kind of wanted to, and I've had this discussion with many people many times. It's gonna be about religion, spirituality, higher power, however you choose to address that. All good with me. Because I don't fuck with none of it. So, it doesn't make a difference. However, though, I do think, you should be open in all situations to kind of understand where anyone is coming from, with anything. As I mentioned earlier, even if you want to look at like the flat earth kind of thing, that's kind of something I think you should definitely kind of put some in, invest some time in, understand where people are coming from. So we're gonna dive into that. I guess what I want to start off with a question, and so, actually a statement. I want to say, religion, as I've seen it, has a great potential to be very beneficial to people. I think that the thought behind it, and a large aspect, seems to be a better person, right? To try to live by a certain standard, a certain moral, certain code that keeps you on a positive path, as much as our society would kind of consider to be so. But with that said, I think so much of it is so open to interpretation. And with interpretation, definitely comes conflicting ideals, conflicting views, and things of that nature. And I think that's where we find ourselves in a situation where you can kind of get yourself in trouble. So I want to introduce it as that, and I'll let you guys touch on that a little bit, or maybe you don't want to. I don't know.
Well, no, like you said, it is a touchy subject. So
and again, to start this off, we're gonna get into this. I think that we haven't shied away from the tough subjects before. This is just an opportunity for us, and it really presented itself at the end of the last episode, where we thought like, hey, there's something else here that we could talk about, because it wasn't so much the traditional sense of religion that struck us, right? We weren't sitting here like, oh, we fucking disagree with what you're saying.
Right.
We kind of were intrigued by, okay, we can have this kind of discussion because number one, anytime you want to have a religious conversation or a spiritual conversation, you need the right people, right? Because I won't have a conversation with anybody about these subjects, you know? So I think it's important to understand that this is like anything else where you can sit down, talk, give your perspective. It's all opinion,
right? And
just kind of roll with that. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to do so.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the reason why it's such a touchy subject is because it's important to a lot of people. You know what I mean? If nobody gave a fuck, then it wouldn't be such an issue, but it plays such a big part in so many people's lives. And like Ken said, there's so many different ways to go about it. That's why it kind of opens itself up for conflict. But I think a lot of that stems from people being like either not necessarily, I don't want to say closed-minded, but so set in their ways that they're not willing to hear another perspective on it.
Which is why what I was saying initially, right? It has the potential to be such a benefit. However, if you're not willing to accept somebody else's views, and now there becomes a conflict,
right?
You can see the negative effect that it can have immediately,
For sure.
Especially something that people hold so near and dear to them,
right?
And I would obviously say, I don't think by any means that everyone is like, oh, well, you're not what I am, so I don't like you,
right?
But I would say even now, having this discussion with you guys and me sharing my views, I expect to hear some shit from it,
right? Well, yeah,
which I'm okay with.
But I don't think either of us are gonna like shit on you.
No, I don't mean from YouTube.
Oh, I see.
Not from YouTube.
Okay,
I'm talking about from.
All right, I was just gonna say.
Ken's never worried about.
Okay,
the
fair
table.
enough. Good, good.
He's never worried about the table.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the table.
Yeah.
Again, I overthink, and I'm overthinking.
This
before
is
we
a
did
safe
this.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I would extend to those same people that you're thinking of that might give you shit for this. Just like be open minded. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. One of the things I wrote down that I wanted to bring up was understanding now. So let me make the statement, make it official. I and am not religious in any fashion, right? In any fashion, I have my reasons for it, and I'll share those a little bit as we progress. However, I'm just not, right? The question I want to ask is, does that then discredit everything that I have been to these people and in the time that you've known me? Does that change those things? Do you look at me? Do you choose to view me differently? As you should. But like, do you? And if so, then to me, then I think, then what has religion done for you? Because it would tell you love your neighbor.
Right.
I mean, at least if we're looking into Christianity, let me be specific.
Maybe
here.
not Baptist, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, I can't. There's only I can only speak to what I know, right? And I know Christianity. At least I'm familiar with it, I'll say. But right there, it tells you, love your neighbor regardless. Like, you're not here to you don't cast any judgment. That is not what you're here for. However, one of the biggest things you hear are people of deep religious convictions casting judgments.
Right.
Plays a role in where I sit with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
For me. And so I guess that's one of the questions I'd have. And I don't have the answer because who am I to judge? I don't judge anyone who is religious.
Right.
Right. Well, we're just from doing the research I've done, right? You're like, I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
Right. Which meant nothing. It was like, okay, I grew up and it was more ritualistic, right?
Sure.
You gone through the whole thing, you know what it is. Christians, you feel that way. If you grew up Christian, you feel like, okay, you're supposed to just love me, right? But then there's Baptists who grew up thinking you were born in sin. You are going to hell unless you fix and correct some of these actions that are earthly.
Well, that's Christianity. I mean, just
No. It's specifically geared towards Baptist people because they're birthed with the sin. Like their job is to save you. Like the way that they're supposed to act in their faith is to save you. Like their job is to save you. Okay. Christians can play that middle ground, right? Like, okay, I can love you or I can condescend you or whatever it is. But Baptists have that initial feeling to save you from your damnation.
Well, I am.
So
again, I can't speak on Baptist, right? But
right.
As far as the Christianity aspect goes, I do know though the whole vibe is you have to confess your sins, you have to repent on your sins, and then you have to be baptized, and then you have to continue to confess your sins because you will sin. Right. No one will. You're not going to be perfect, and that's fine. However, you have to.
Right. So I'm only addressing the differences to address what you said.
Sure.
Which is you're supposed to love your neighbor. Baptists want to save thy neighbor, like that. So I'm only addressing it for that reason. I'm not Baptist, but I've learned, that's how their view is.
Gotcha.
They're little kids thinking I got to save this little kid.
Right.
Even as a kid, they think, that he's a sinner. I got to save him.
Which plays a role in the spread of it anyway, right?
Right.
That's kind of, you could see the trickle down of that.
Exactly. So I'm only trying to highlight the differences, but I'm trying to address what you're saying about, loving, like just accepting and loving somebody.
Right.
Baptists don't necessarily feel that, but it's in the same vein of a religion, right?
Right.
So that's the only reason I'm bringing that up.
Understood.
So Baptist people in general, like Baptist is like a version of Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of different like sub sects, as they call it, of Christianity, Orthodox,
many.
Presbyterian, you know what I mean?
Methodist,
And generally what it comes down to is whatever that church group's interpretation of the Bible, right? Because it's all based off the Bible, right? Yeah. And this is where it kind of gets tricky and it gets touchy for people. Baptists in general believe the Bible to be 100% true, free of contradiction, and 100% accurate. So a lot of Baptist people believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old. You know what I mean? Whereas even though scientific evidence presented to them will say otherwise, they'll stick to that conviction. And there's a whole nother subsect called apologists that try to bridge the gap between like Baptists and like traditional views and scientific evidence. You know, so and that's where it can get tricky because sometimes they tend to skew their beliefs to fit facts rather than the other way around. You know what I mean? So that's where it starts, I would say. And that's what kind of divides some of these different sects of Christianity is how they interpret the Bible. And so Baptists are very literal.
Yeah, I mean, even kind of touching on that, right? Like the understanding that there are so many subsects of sects of Christianity. It lends itself to understanding the fact that there are very many different means of interpretation.
Exactly, yeah.
But something that I've always found interesting is that if you look on that Bible is called the King James Version. And I always wonder, like, have you ever looked into, so in my bored free time, and I also took a class in college in which revolved around this, but if you ever looked into, well, why is King James on there? Like, that seems weird. We got James sitting here, but you know what I mean?
But that's just
King Mountain, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that illustrates even more of the divisions because there's not just one version of the Bible, not just one translation. So the King James Version is one. There's like the New Living Translation. There's a ton of different translations, and depending on which translation you read and which church background you come from, it can be interpreted in now seemingly infinite different ways.
Absolutely. However, the point I'm making though is when you understand what so I'll just use King James as the example, right? When you understand what that means. That means that an individual came out and said, "Hey, this is what I want in, this is what I want out."
Right.
That it existed before that.
Yeah.
So if you want to be real with it, I believe the Judaism, the Torah, that would have been like your New Testament. The Old Testament. That'd have been like the initial fucking book.
Right.
And
or like, this is what I think is important.
Right. This is what I want.
As important.
This is what I want, and this is what I don't think
because they were so
there.
highly religious, but they thought like this is the biggest part of it.
Well, fuck that, man. I'm looking at humans as humans, dude. Looking at like what benefits me. If this benefits me, this is what I want in there. I take humans to be humans. I don't give anyone any credit outside of that. Humans are humans. We talked about the Robinhood. We've talked about corruption and everything many, many times. And I refuse to think that times any period of humankind was that all different.
Right.
And so to me right there, that says so much in the sense of somebody came in and edited this and said this is what's good and this is not what's not. And then that to even in today's time, knowing that information, we are still so okay with, I'll take that in and I'll just accept that as that's what it is.
Right.
And even fucking prior to that, there was like a council that would sit down and they would like, hey, all right, well, there was many books, and then they were like, well, no, get rid of that one. You know what I mean? Yeah. And understanding that, and which is why in Judaism, with being the oldest religion, the oldest established religion, right there, I'm like, well, like where was the curve where people just decided like, I don't think so, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's interesting in itself. Yeah. You know. Well, you got your three main religions: Christianity, Islam, I'll call it, Muslims, whatever, and then Judaism.
Well, Judaism was exclusive, so that's what kind of held them back, because that goes back thousands of years. But you had to be born Jewish to be in that religion. Right. You couldn't be born outside and convert.
Well, then I imagine.
So that's why
that's how you got.
And again, we're not going to get too far into it, but that's why Jesus Christ was supposedly the one who said, no, you can be in this. And that's where Christianity was birthed, right?
Right.
But if you were born Jewish, you had to be born Jewish. You had to be born Jewish.
Yeah.
You couldn't convert. There was no conversions there.
Right. Very interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. But that's why they say that Rome and everybody conspired against Jesus Christ, because Jesus was born Jewish and believed that everybody had the right to convert or to be part of something. So he started something similar. That's why Judaism and Christianity is so similar.
Yeah.
But he believed that everybody had the right to be part of it. But
Yeah.
back then, if you were born Jewish, you were in.
Yeah, which is interesting anyway.
Which still
So-
shows remnants of it now.
Right.
But so excuse me, I suppose, well, there's a little background, you know what I mean?
Right.
And again, I don't think any of us are acting like we're fucking historians
No.
on the matter.
Yeah.
We're just simply, this is probably stuff that most people do understand already.
I was going to wear a suit and tie, like a Mormon.
Professor James
But
is here.
I thought a Mormon.
Oh, got you.
But I thought it'd be confusing.
Yeah.
I was going to wear a bow
Like,
tie.
we don't know shit about that
I was
one.
going to wear a bow tie and ask if anybody wants a bean pie. You know what I mean? But I better stop it. But something from me, right? And so I'm going to kind of ask some questions, which ultimately will lead to me giving you guys kind of what drove me. I was raised as a Christian. Like, I grew up and that's what I did. I've been baptized. I was baptized as a Catholic, and then I was baptized as later on in life. And I'll give you more background as we progress.
Let's start there.
Mm.
You want to start there?
Let's start with the history.
All right, let me
Your
give
history,
you this.
and
So
then we'll move forward.
initially, as a child, I was baptized as a Baptist. You know, whatever.
Speaking tongues and shit, yeah.
And then later on in life, I grew up, and somebody in my life that I valued then, and I value now still, regardless. They told me, "What do they sprinkle some water on your head? That ain't being baptized. You need to come down, you know,
Get dunked.
to another church. Yeah, you need to be fucking dunked. You need to go into the water. You know what I mean?" And I was like,
Damn
holy
near
shit.
drowned.
And so let me explain this to you. And this is where, so personally, where it comes to me was the person that took me to be baptized as a Baptist was my mother. My mother had obviously passed away by this time. Later on, when this individual told me that, and then shock, you know. And then so them telling me like, and if that's all you did, like you're going to hell. And all I could think, and I was a child still, maybe like 12, 13. So as a child still, all I could think was, you're telling me my mom's in hell? You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
believed it. So
Right.
I was like, holy fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom's in hell. And I don't know how to process it, but I just thought like, what?
Mm.
And from that moment, I literally was like, I don't know if I could get down with this. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen my mom do anything remotely like fucking horrible. You know what I mean? And I just thought,
Sinful.
I'm sure she has. I mean, come on, you know, she's a human. I'm sure she had her fucking moments. You know what I mean? However,
Shout out Ken's mom. on
yeah,
that
you
one.
know what I mean? However,
Piece
like,
of
so
shit,
that was
James.
the first thing that kind of shook me from it, right? And then also being told, like, and while you go up there, like, when you confess your sins and you repent, if you are not sincere, like, you are going to hell. You know, everything was just, you're going to hell. Every fucking thing was, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there as a child, like, I don't even understand what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then your mind had to be focused. You had to, and I was like, I just told you guys I can't focus on one fucking thing. And so I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, I'm thinking about everything else. You know, I can't think about this.
Right.
I'm going to hell.
Right.
I'm going to hell. My mom's in hell. I'm going to hell. Fuck it, you know?
Reunited and it feels so good.
You know, I'm kind of like, well, you know, I got somebody there.
You'd go to
know
hell
what I
for your
mean?
mom.
Oh, yeah, I would.
I'm
you
just
know what I
saying.
mean?
Just
Yeah,
saying.
No, you're absolutely right. I wouldn't give a shit.
Just saying.
And so you know, being told these things and understanding, like, it wasn't just this one individual that was telling me this. It was I'm going to church and this is what they're telling me.
Right.
It's backed up. They used to say, you have Bible questions, we have Bible answers. Like, whatever your question is, we will find something in this book that will answer your question.
Right.
And at the time I had no fucking courage to challenge it. You know what I mean? I wasn't gonna stand up to them and challenge it. I
Right.
was just gonna be like, all right, you know. But from that point on, I was kind of shaken from it.
Right.
And then understanding that, you know, like I said, just the perspective of like, man, everything, you end up in hell unless I repent, I confess, I repent. Which you're baptized, you don't have to get baptized every fucking week, but you know,
Right.
and I just thought, like, I can't even think of all the fucked up things I do. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. You
Yeah.
do something. Was it? How? I don't know if maybe it impacted you different.
Yeah,
I
how
don't
bad was
know.
it?
You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And so it would kind of scare me.
Yeah.
And I thought for me, and then as I grew up, and at this point I still believed it. I was all in. And then as I grew up and I got older, I think right around like senior year in high school, things like that, I kind of started really like, I'll elaborate right now. I had a friend, and he's Cambodian, man, and he was Buddhist, and he would tell me about his religion, and I thought, fuck, dude, that religion's really cool. And so I talked to this individual about it, and they were like, your friend's going to hell. And I just was like, nah, this one of the nice. This is the guy that got me to be how I am, in the sense of, if you're a fucking bully, if you want to pick on some little dude, I'm not a little dude. Fuck that. You know what I mean? And I loved that. You know what I mean? I loved who this guy was. I loved how he carried himself and his mentality and, everything about it. And then she told me, like, yeah, he's going to hell. And I was just like, I can't do it.
Right.
I cannot accept that. I cannot believe that God would sit there. If God is God and everything that you were saying about it, I can't accept that would be the reality and the result of him living a life that fit even into what your description of a good person is. But yet, because he was raised in a different mentality where he didn't know anything about this,
right,
that he would ultimately end up in hell. I wouldn't accept it. I thought, you fucking told my mother, and now this? No way.
Right.
And then I started thinking freely of it, without understanding what was kind of being sold to me. I started looking at it as, you know what, and this is what I'll jump into here is you're telling me some people were walking in the forest and a snake came up and was like, hey guys, you should eat this fucking apple. You know what I mean? And although God himself, in fucking right there, God himself told you, don't eat from there.
Yeah.
You couldn't help yourself. You know what I mean? And this is the story we're told. And this is, to me, it just teaches obedience. And again, then I relate it back to understanding, well, a king was the one who thought that was a good thing to have there. It makes sense. Be obedient to what I'm telling you. You do what I tell you, you're fine. You don't, you go to fucking hell.
Right.
We got Jesus coming out like, oh man, we don't have enough food in this. Well, you know what? You got some water there. And this always baffles me. It baffles me now. Let's turn it to wine. Why? Why? That's not even essential. Dude, you don't need that.
Yeah.
Right. You're just trying to get lit.
It's because it's delicious.
Yeah. You wanted to get lit. You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude.
Before we get too deep, let's get into a prayer.
We've already gotten too deep.
No?
I have poured my heart out. Right?
No one wants to grab my hand. Okay. I understand.
It's COVID time, son.
It's COVID time. Okay.
Well, I feel like my background is very similar to yours in that I was raised Baptist, and I had a lot of those same feelings about hell and how they use that threat to kind of control you in a way. And that may not necessarily be the intention of the people in that church. That's just what they were taught, and that's what they're putting down onto you. You know what I mean? And that's, I say that to say this, like, just because they're Baptist or whatever religion, pick a religion, just because they're of that religion doesn't mean that they're a bad person.
Absolutely not.
Or that they're going to hell or whatever you think the equivalent of hell is based on your religion. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, I think this all comes back down to interpretation of the Bible. So just to kind of get into my background a little bit, like I said, I was raised Baptist. I had a lot of those same sentiments. It was always taught to me. And obviously, like, the personal aspect of it was like, you know, I'm just a kid, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I don't want to end up in hell. But then the added thing on top of it was like, you know, your friends are all going to hell too, kind of like what you were saying, unless you convert them. And so it puts this weird pressure on you, you know what I mean? Especially at a young age when you're, you know, awkward and trying to figure your place out in the world. And now on top of this, you feel this obligation or pressure to like bring up Jesus every time you talk to somebody, because you feel like if you don't, you're doing them a disservice and that they're going to go to hell because you didn't say something. It just adds a whole nother pressure and guilt to like an already tough time in your life. And so because of that, I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of people end up straying away from it. But again, it comes down to the Baptist interpretation of the Bible, where they take things very literally. Whereas over the years, and again, this is my own personal thing, but my belief is that the Bible isn't meant to be taken literally. It's ancient text that has been translated many different times by many different groups, and you know, meanings of specific words can change the entire narrative of a story, right? And so because of that, I will say, you know, maybe there's like a divine inspiration to the whole book, but I think more accurately, it's a group of historical texts that kind of show, an overall lesson. I don't think that it's meant to be taken literally. I don't think there was an actual Adam and Eve and there was a snake.
No.
You know what I mean? I think the takeaway or like the moral of the story is what is meant to be conveyed.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the problem is that when I wouldn't say it's a problem, but this is what happens, I think, is like the Bible is such like a sacred book, and that it's so special that sometimes people translate it or interpret it literally. And because of that, you have all these things like, if a woman is unfaithful in a marriage, then you should stone her to death, or, you know what I mean? Or like anything that has to do with homosexuality or like any of those other things, it all stems from the interpretation. And I think that, it's a lot of times it's not necessarily the fault of the people. It's just how they were taught.
Right. And, man, just to jump on that, I absolutely agree with you. I think I could understand, like my whole point is simply saying, like, I understand why you'd want to have that there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think the moral of it is the thought behind it is a great thought behind it. Right. I think you said, like, if you take it literally, which a lot of groups do, and that's where I think it's like, how do you fucking believe that? Like, Chris Angel and David Blaine, you know what I mean? Do you just, are they divine? They have some shit going on because they can fucking sit in ice for 4 days or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no. However, I just think people are so, when you're taught something from as a kid, if I told you, Travis, hey man, if you touch that fucking light bulb over there, it's gonna burn your hand. You never touch that light bulb. You're always going to think it. However, if you touch that light right there, it would never burn you. It won't burn you, right? But you would think it because blind faith would tell you that, hey, no, I have to believe this is what I believe.
Yeah,
and that's what I think. Everything in me, like I said when I started this off, I think religion has a great potential to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And I support that. I think, though, my thought is some people need that to keep them guided on the right direction. And for myself personally, I'll just say I think I can just see I have a strong moral compass. And I think when I come to that, I'm an overthinker anyway. So I constantly thinking, how am I perceived? How was that received by whoever I was around? I don't ever mean to offend. I don't want to do that. So that's kind of the vibe I get.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And there's an aspect to it of like humanitarian. I think it's humanitarianism is another, like, it's not necessarily a religion, but it's something that like people kind of use as a religion. It's like, very much, the common good, what's good for humanity, like being a good person, you know what I mean? And it doesn't at all have anything to do with like divinity or God or anything like that, right. And there's value to that, you know what I mean? But I feel like there is still something deeper, and my own experience, like it's hard to put into words. I think it's something that has to be experienced more than can be explained. And when you try to explain it, it kind of cheapens it in a way, because you're never going to be able to fully like explain it to somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
one of the things I want to touch on just quickly, I didn't even write this down, but just something that I've always thought is, I think here in America, due to whatever fucking reasons, you guys will know what I'm talking about, I think Muslims have been given such a shit name.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And I think that's probably to benefit certain people and certain things.
Yeah.
If I had to take a guess, and there's always powers at hand that do that. But everything, the Muslims that I've known, everything that I've seen from people who've gone to, I mean, if you go in a fucking war zone, understand that, right? But I'm saying, so if you're outside of a warring country, everything that one of my favorite people is Anthony Bourdain, and everything he would say was like, man, like, these are some of the nicest people I've ever met. Right. Like, they're very inviting. They're very like, hey, yeah, accepting. And from their religious teachings, they're one of the only groups that say, hey, you don't have to be what we believe in. Like, right. we're not here. We don't necessarily want to convert you. You know what I mean? Like, whereas Christianity, that is like,
well, there's levels to it, right? Because like every with Muslims in our age, in our generation, we've known the radical Muslim.
Yeah, the extremists.
We know the extremists, right? So that goes with Christians.
Yeah, there's been radical Christians throughout history.
Look at the fucking dude. What was that? Wisconsin, when he shot him and shit.
And then just go back a little bit to the Christians who protest funerals
because the Westboro Baptist,
right? So like they believe like, no, fuck these soldiers, right? So they'll go and protest funerals. There's always going to be this extreme group within the religion that acts way out, and then there's always going to be that one, that those religious people that understand like, no, my relationship with God is more important than anything else,
right?
And that's where kind of like where I sit. One of my greatest mentors is a Christian who believes that he not that he can hear God, but he feels like his relationship with God is strong. Like he feels like it's strong as fuck in the thoughts he has and everything, right? So, but he's not an extremist, but he claims to have this strong relationship with God, and that's on the opposite spectrum. But the same thing can happen on the negative side, right?
Well,
where
100%.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like it just depends on how you want to act out in that. Like what are you choosing to act out within your religion? Within the confines of your beliefs, what are you willing to act out on?
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of people are separated, because you have Muslims and you have Muslims in America that are famous that people didn't even know about Muslim.
Well, I think a lot of them aren't out like super like
but you take celebrities, right? You take Kanye West, you take Mos Def, you take people who we know, right? Celebrities. Sure. They're Muslim. They raised Muslim.
Yeah, black. I'm gonna say this to you though, like, and this is my understanding of it and how what I perceive. This is black Muslims are viewed differently than you would from a Middle Eastern Muslim.
I feel like because in America, like Muslim is such a minor religion in comparison to Christianity. Like obviously you hear it all the time. We're a Christian nation. You know what I mean? Like I feel like because it's such a minority, that's probably the reason why the radicals stick out to us as much. Like you were saying, the only exposure that we've had to Islam is like the extremists who have committed terrorist attacks and things like that.
I always will, and I never will not always attribute it to who's giving us our information and why, right? I'm sure, like if I look at it, Muslim is the biggest religion in the fucking world.
World, right?
Right. So, but here, because we're not, and then seeing how powerful people, and I mean, you look at it, like someone runs for president, what religion are they, right? Like,
Christian.
are they?
They have to be almost,
right? Yeah, pretty much.
Because of how ingrained it is in our culture.
Which tells you how much power they have invested in that.
100%.
And then understanding that, and then seeing like, well, money makes everything go round, and understand how many people in the Middle East are making fucking money, right? Oil, and then what do? Oh, you want to go to war? You want to do these things? What's the first fucking thing you do when you get there? You secure their resources. And so to me, that's all I see. I just see, and then that's when
excuse for war.
Yeah, and that's what I see, the negatives of fucking, and it's not so much religion that I think it's a negative of. Yeah. I think it's money. It's money, but there's the motive. Here we are. They're a threat to
our way of life,
to the reality of how people need to be, right? I mean, there's enough people here that will back that, and I think that's shitty. I think you shouldn't be influenced. I think that's why I say, man, for me, I have my own moral compass, and nothing anybody else can say. We can have a conversation about it, and if you intrigue me, fucking great job. You know what I mean? But if you're just telling me like, well, they're wrong and I'm right, I don't have no time to hear what you have to say anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? Fuck off, man. If you can't back up what you say, then what's the point? And then another thing is, man, these same people that we're discussing that are so offended by these other groups of people don't even follow the same rules that their religion are telling them to follow. You know what I mean? Like fornication. Let's just fucking look at fornication right there.
Yeah, religion loves to control people's sex lives.
Absolute sin, right? Absolute fucking sin. However, who the fuck isn't? How many people aren't? I don't know about you guys. I don't know one. Okay, I'm just call it what it is. I don't fucking know one person that was like not gonna have sex until I'm married. Yeah, I don't know one.
Yeah. Well, let's dumb it down. Masturbation.
Yeah. That was a big thing that you got guilted about.
Yeah, I don't know one, right?
Yeah.
But we're so quick to judge people, and that's when I think it becomes negative, because now
it's hypocritical.
It's so fucking hypocritical. You know what I mean? And these are the things that, like, as I got older, that I was like, yeah, man, I ain't worried about what you say about me. And you know what? My thought is this: if I woke up tomorrow or if I don't wake up tomorrow, I should up rather, right? And I walk up to these. This is the
pearly gates.
Yeah, you know the.
Well, you ain't gonna see the gates. I'll just say that.
Well, you know, the hypothetical, the you know, whatever, pearly gates, right? I wake up and I'm like, holy shit, here I am. You know, I don't imagine when I'm getting judged, as you know, per your Bible and everything. Yeah. I don't imagine that they'd be like, well, you know what? Because of the simple fact that you didn't fucking come here and accept me, I can't imagine God is that fucking vain. No. You know what I mean? I can't, like, in my world, I can't imagine. I think it's anything but that. I think we as humans are vain. We need you to fucking praise me. I can't imagine that would have ever been the vibe. You know what I mean? I can't see that. And these are the things that throw me off. And if anything, for me, it was a deterrent from me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I understand where other people lie. And I always do. I'm very, like, I get it. And I think if you use it positively, more power to you. Yeah. But if you're so vain that you can't fucking understand that God, I can't imagine somebody that created man and all the flaws that man are, you know, and then are mad at you for it. Right. That makes no sense. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So. No, 100%. And so, and let's, like, kind of diving into that, you know, about God being the judge and the big eye in the sky. When somebody says the word God, like, everyone has a definition in their head, and they all assume that everybody thinks it means the same thing.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? But agreed. I feel like in my experience, that's not always the case. And I've come to kind of through my own, like, pursuit of it, I've come to understand it differently. You know what I mean? Because that's how I used to think about it, is that he's going to be the judge, and, you know, any sin that you have, like, he's going to hold it against you and keep you from getting into heaven. And, you know, that's just because of what we were taught. But kind of going through my own, like, rebuilding of my faith, I've got, like, a different understanding of it. And a lot of it just comes from, like, the reading that I've been doing and stuff. And it leaves space, and it makes room for a much more, like, open interpretation. You know what I mean? I don't think that God is, like, a person, you know what I mean? Or, you know, a man or a woman or anything like that. I feel when I hear the word God, or when I think about it now, I kind of view it more as like an energy in a way. And this is going to sound real, like, woo, no, you know what I mean? But but the it's more about, to me, like, the energy and, like, the thing that fills in the spaces that ties us all together. Because ultimately, like, if you do, like, any kind of, like, a meditation, and you start to, like, expand what you think about as far as, like, you know, the world and the people that are in it and stuff, you eventually get to a point, if you go at it long enough, where you start to feel kind of small in a way, and, like, in the sense that, like, there's so much more going on around you that you realize. And also you start to feel more connected in a way. It's like, ultimately, everyone out there is doing the best that they can with the information and the things that they were taught. You know what I mean? And ultimately, I think, you know, despite, you know, driving on the 91 freeway, most people are good people, you know what I mean? And, you know, ultimately, most people, you know, they want what's best for their family and themselves, ultimately. Sure. And, but also in a broader sense, they want, you know, what's best for humanity, but they don't want it to infringe or impact the way that they live. You know what I mean? But ultimately, everyone is connected in a certain way. And that weird, indescribable, like, kind of mystic, you know, thing that ties us all together, I think that's God. And so it's hard to put, like, a solid definition on it, but that's how I interpret it. You know what I mean? But obviously that's much different than what I was taught and what I used to believe.
You know, Travis, like, I like that ideology right there. You know what I mean? In the sense of, like, and I guess for me, the thing that I'll be honest with you, man. Like, another aspect of it is, like, I watched the movie The Book of Eli, and in watching it and then understanding how sought after the Bible was, right?
Because he controlled the information.
Why? Because with this book and the way it's worded and everything in it, I imagine, and if we look at historically, people didn't have TV or Instagram. They weren't doing YouTube. They didn't have none of that shit, right? What did they have to do? They had to tell stories. Yeah. So I told stories, and now, wow, this story is really influential. Holy shit, look at this. Look at what I can do with this. Look what I can do with this. And then understanding, hey, I have a book of stories that get people to change all aspects of their lives. And then understanding humans and understanding how fucking unruly and just for lack of a better way of putting it, it's just like fucking animals we can be, which even fucking makes me think of Great Gatsby when he's like, you're just a beast or whatever. When Tom Buchanan tells Gatsby, he tells Gatsby,
James Gatsby.
yeah, like you're just a fucking beast basically, and you always will be. I think man will resort back to primitive nature, right? And I think so if you find a way where you can get them, influence them not to, and understand the control that comes with that, that's a good thing, right? However, then people take it and then they exploit it. And so, I mean, I forget the dude's name, but the fucking evangelical dude that's on TV, and he's always like these weird faces.
Joel Osteen. Oh no, the old guy.
The old guy.
Yeah.
I wish I would remember his name right now. The guy that was like, "You're gonna blow it away,
the winds of God."
Dude. Just these crazy things, and then you look and you're like, he's literally telling these fucking gullible people, "I need all your money." But these people are so trying. They're trying because they believe what he's telling them. You know what I mean? And this man is just preying on them. You know. And to me, when I look at it, that's the piece of shit that goes to hell. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that guy. Fuck him in every aspect of it, man. I say that probably more than I should, but like that's one that I absolutely mean. It's people that do that and prey on weak people and people in desperate times. And I don't mean to call them weak. I mean they're in desperate times.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then, therefore, you know, like you're trying to turn to something that you think is positive, you know, and then that's what you get, you know. Well, this guy's flying around in his fucking G5 jets and shit like that. That's the issues that I see.
Well, see, there's always a flip side, right? Because the Book of Eli, we're all Denzel fans. We watch movies. There's a hero archetype, right? So you have somebody who's going through this journey, and he's blind. You find out at the end he's fucking blind, right?
Bibles in Braille.
Right. So he goes through the whole thing, and yes, the people are trying to control that book, trying to control the narrative, trying to influence, and they need that book to do so.
Sure.
But then you have the other side, which everything that you saw him do in that movie was on power. The power that came from that was from God, right?
Agreed.
His ability to survive, to find his journey, to get to the destination. It was all based on the power from God.
Agreed.
So like in that movie was a great movie.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. But like, because we weave in and out of like, oh, I like this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
We can identify with the hero in the story.
Sure.
And we understand that. But the reality of it is it's centered around a person who is powered by a higher power that led him to safety in extreme circumstances, to get to the goal, to still give that book to the place, his destination, to now distribute that for their side. And we think that's a happy ending. And it still follows the same thing. Which side do you fall on? Right. Because some people have to watch that movie and want the bad guy to get the book. Right.
I don't want to make the perception that I was like,
No.
But yeah, you're right.
But some people had to watch the movie and been like,
very good point.
I wish they would, and influence people to understand that Christianity is shit. But we watch that movie and we like the hero. It's not so much where he got his powers from, because we watch superheroes that we don't give a fuck where they got their powers from. They're superheroes.
Yeah, I know what Thor did.
And he, well, we know what Thor did, and he was birthed from the same storyline. But you have like this flip side of the story, and we choose to side with it whether or not we're on the fence. Right? We're not on the fence, but we still resonate with the hero.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying like it plays into pop culture in a way that like we are so unaware of, but yet we fall in somewhere.
And it demonstrates kind of like what Christianity is about. Not to compare like him to Jesus or whatever, but in a way it kind of is, because he's giving an example of what it means to like follow God.
Here's the human embodiment of what I can do.
And that's where Jesus plays into the story of Christianity, and honestly that's like the main like pillar of my faith that I've been rebuilding. And I kind of want to quote this book real quick because
Sure.
this is going to be the best way to describe it, better than I can recall it. So this is from that Finding God in the Waves book. And these are one of the axioms that he wrote about his faith. And these are just like baseline explanations that he's been able to use to explain it, right? So in this axiom about Jesus, it says, he is at least a man that was so connected to God that he was called the Son of God, and that the largest religious movement in human history is centered around his teachings. Even if this is all that Jesus is, following his teachings can promote peace, empathy, and genuine morality. And so for me, no matter what you believe, like how you interpret the Bible, that is a baseline definition of who Jesus was. And to me, that is the ultimate example of what it means to like follow God and be like a godly person. I didn't say religious person because, you know, being religious and being godly or being like a good person can be very different based on your interpretation. Yeah. But for me, like that's what I use as an example.
Travis, you SOB, you. Okay.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. You fucking knew? You knew?
You can't say son of a bitch right after I say Jesus.
We just fucking did several times. Okay,
I said it last episode. I'm going to say it again. You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. You son
well,
of
those
a
aren't
bitch.
my words. Those are his.
Shit.
But this is one of the main things.
But
No, it's the things that you're choosing to bring, not just bring, but just to bring to yourself, right? Like the things that you feed yourself. Those are things that I can't attack as a person.
No, and I have no fucking desire to. And if anything, it's everything I was trying to say wrapped into a better way. Right? Like I
same. So then that's why I used it instead of trying to do it on my own.
Which is why, like for me, I've used this expression many times tonight. My moral compass, right? And, and I'm just saying, for me personally, I think I do see. Like, let's say somebody, you fucking go out, you're like a hitman. You do all this shit. You get arrested. You go to jail. You're in fucking jail for life.
We've all been there.
And then you turn, I was there last week. But you turn to God after that, right? Like, you find God and you turn to God. My thought is mainly because you realize, like, well, I'm on a short chain now. And, you know, however, regardless, it doesn't matter. If it made you a better person, I'm a million times for it every day of the week. I just think for me, my moral compass and my own fucking guilt in my own, the way I'll beat myself up if I make someone feel bad. I don't feel like I personally have to then go through that to understand that.
No, definitely.
You know what I mean? But you said something there. If it makes you a better, if his teachings and understanding that all of it was geared around kind of trying to make you a better person. Right? And by no means am I at all saying I am perfect. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys was, have you ever said something to somebody you sincerely regretted? And I have. And I have said, I told you earlier, Travis, I've said some fucked up things to people, things that fuck with me now. But I've used those examples as means of not doing so again in the future.
Right. Yeah, because you can't change the past, ultimately. Yeah. You just have to learn from your mistakes. And that's not even a spiritual thing. That's a general common human thing.
Well, I think, but it should be. But then you have those people like the preacher guy I was just telling you about, who does it every fucking day and doesn't care. There's no remorse. There's no nothing. There's so many humans that do not care. That exploit things, that find the fucking loopholes, that don't give a fuck about the rest, that are greedy, which is also one of the fucking sins, right? Greed is a fucking sin. You know what I mean? However, we live in America, dude. That's all we're about.
For sure.
That is our motto. Capitalism, that's our motto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet we are the most judgy society, I'd say.
Yeah.
And these are the reasons so this is just all to kind of encompass it all. These are the reasons that I come to where I come to. And then I guess probably my last question I'd like to ask. And then, you know, if you guys have something you guys want to ask.
Like a piss break.
Like they'll send you something and then you forget to reply and you're like, what?
What did you say? You said it again? Was it for me? I don't know what you're talking about. What you talking?
What you talking about?
Get the shit out of my way. I'd like to smoke my cigar again, senor.
Yeah, I should relight mine. I ain't scared.
I ain't no bitch. All right. Let me know when you guys are ready, man, because I'm fucking rocking. Hey, dude, this whiskey is fucking fear me, dude.
It is. Fear me.
Fear me. It's fear me.
It's Fear Mesa.
Fear God.
The winds of God. The way he says it. The winds of God will
Just-
blow you
Is
away.
this guy high, dude? Like, what the fuck is going on? All right, so boys, this brings me to a question I have. I don't know if I said it was my last question earlier. I lied. Fuck off. You know,
Hey, that's a sin.
frig off. Anyway, what are the Trailer Park Boys? Frig off, Randy.
It's a nice fucking
Ricky. Anyway, so with our understanding of what science is today, does how do you then take what you see in the Bible and compare that to science when you look at things as such like evolution, when you look at things as timelines,
Cosmology.
yeah, when you look at all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
how do you then quantify religion and science and make it whole?
All that just to point to the book.
Honestly,
Finding
like
God in the way.
listen,
Right?
I keep harping on this book, but honestly, it's what has been the most influential to me. The subtitle of this book is "How I Lost My Faith and Found It Again Through Science." So I will say this: I went kind of a similar route to the author of this book. He, was born and raised in religion. He lost his religion, went to atheism, and used science to point out all the reasons why religion can exist. And then as he got further and further into science, started to realize that there is space for both. And space in the sense that there's room for both, but also when you look out into outer space, there's a lot of things that kind of point towards a higher being. And it's not just the typical like, I can't explain it, so I'm going to just create some fictional character that has all the answers. I can only say that this book has been like the biggest influence as far as like rebuilding my faith, and it's kind of answered a lot of questions I've had. And I'm not saying that it's perfect or that I'm perfect or that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
but
you are.
I'm working my way towards it.
No, yeah, that's exactly what you're trying to say.
So yeah, as far as like science goes, yeah, the basic theory of evolution and those sorts of things will fight against religion if you do view the Bible in a very, very literal sense. But again, like I said, I don't feel like the Bible is meant to be taken literally. You're not supposed to read it from cover to cover and then, take that and apply it to your life directly. Because if you did, you wouldn't be able to live in modern day society.
Yeah.
Like the things that were written and the things that were going on in those times in the Bible, they have underlying tones, and a lot of the same things are happening, but not in the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think society has become a lot more acceptable to a lot of things that at one point were absolutely unacceptable, and I think that's progress, personally.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there's a reason why there's the Old Testament and the not so Old Testament. I won't call it the New Testament, but you know what I mean? The Old Testament, there was an old way of doing things, you know what I mean? And the New Testament was supposed to change that, but people are still reading it, like I said, cover to cover, taking it literally and trying to apply those old rules and laws to modern day life, and it just doesn't work.
I think that should be kind of a metaphor for where we are, right? Like, kind of understand there was an Old Testament and a New Testament. Just have a very New Testament, you know what I mean? Where one of the questions I had written down was should the Bible be considered a living document? You know what I mean? Where it's constantly evolving, and I mean, maybe not necessarily word for word evolving,
Right.
but just in the way that you approach it, in the way that you view it. I think there's a lot more that people can gain. I think as times change, people change. Ideals change.
I think it kind of is, not in the sense that we're adding to it. Like there's no new books that are being added to the Bible, but I think in the way that we're translating it, it kind of.
I think for some it
keeps
is.
it more
I think
relevant.
to your point, I think for some it does.
Mhm.
I think if you take liberal states, so I'll refer to America, but if you take liberal states, yes.
Mhm.
But I think if you take states that are not so liberal, I would say I don't think it is at all. I think they're actually fighting that.
Yeah, no, yeah, because that's the definition or the nature of the conservative, right? Like they want to stick to traditional ways, traditional things that have been going on, you know, because it's been working for them, you know.
Yeah. Until something affects them, and then it's like, oh no, fuck it, let's change it.
Yeah, fuck you, Melvin.
Yeah, there you go. Great example. And at least for me, man, that'll conclude what I have to say on that subject. So I don't know if you guys have any
No,
input.
I do want to touch on that book a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want to find that book, obviously he recommended that to me. He has a hard copy right here.
Mm-hmm.
I found it on Audible,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to come by.
Yeah, and it's narrated by the author, so it's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's
when
always
they do
the.
that.
I prefer.
You don't got Jake Gyllenhaal drying that shit up for you. But you have the author doing that, and what I'm about maybe a little less than halfway through the book. He does a really good job of you understanding where he's at. So early on in the book, he gives you his whole story. And in the beginning, I'm thinking like, why do I care? Like, because a lot of it is where we were in life. Like, we don't understand this shit. We're trying to learn. We're a kid, and he wasn't a very popular kid. He was a fat boy, and he got picked. He got picked on, and he at one point, God was his best friend. He talked to God more than anybody else, right? So he found ways to work through that. But the biggest part about it is like when he lost his faith, it was because his parents were divorcing. And in his head, he thought, there's no way that you guys can do this. And when that happened, his faith fell apart, right? And to me, like, life is going to be like that. And when you understand, like, he went to one of his best friends and said, well, I'm going to save them. I'm going to save them, save their marriage and everything. And his friend told him, you're going to save them, but you're going to lose yourself in doing so. And to me, that's like the basis of like and that's what applies to everybody outside of religion, right? Like, I know Ken would break his back to help me out,
right?
Like, regardless of what it was. Like, I know Ken would go against what he wanted to do in order to save me from something he thought I need to be saved from.
Right.
He would put all his energy into that, and that's what he did. And his friend told him, you're gonna lose yourself trying to save your parents, even if you're trying to go through religious aspect. And one of the biggest parts is he had one of his good friends who wasn't Baptist, but he took that same Bible and he interpreted it differently. Right. The way he interpreted everything. And we all fall into the aspect of how we interpret things, how we want to help people, how we want to do things. And one of the biggest parts to me is like that this book gives you everything from a kid that was picked on all the way to when he was self-sufficient, didn't need God. He was popular. He learned how to be popular, charismatic. And he went through all the stages of life, even up to the point where he married his girl who was heavy into religion. And even when he had kids, he didn't think that he was like a closet atheist. He didn't think his kids would understand it. Right. And he didn't keep religion from his kids. Right. He even pushed them to be religious and to push that, and everybody tried to save him. But like, the point is, so far in the book, like, you're following a journey in this book, and it's somewhat similar to what I think we all follow. We all understand what it's like to kind of play that line between a believer and a non-believer. And one of the biggest things up to the point where I'm at in the book is I resonated so much with when I was at a church retreat with my mentor, who I was at. It was a full-blown Christian event. We were all up there. It was all men. It was a men's retreat, and they had like a service. And that night, the next day, we all sat there and we had a little independent Bible study. It was like 6 people. They broke us all into groups, and I was there because I wanted to hang out with my mentor. Like, I didn't care about anybody else. I wanted to hang out with my mentor. We hung out, and all of a sudden we're in a group, and I wasn't comfortable with that at all. And I sat there and I told him I wasn't a believer. Like, I was like, okay, the shit was over. Like, no one had anything to say because everybody was nervous. And I was like, I can't go the whole weekend with you guys thinking I'm a believer. Right. So I told him, I was like, hey, just so you guys know, I don't believe what you guys believe. Just so you guys know. Turned into a whole different conversation. And all of a sudden, a second guy, hey, I kind of feel like you. And then the third guy, well, yeah, no, I'm a believer sometimes and not others. But that's religion to me, is like, not everybody who falls into the fucking house or the belief or the religion is going to be on the same level. No, definitely. You know, and it's not so much to say that you have to, or that's where it has to lead, but this book is good. So if you want a book, Finding God in the Waves is a good way for you to understand this shit scientifically.
Right.
But also just to be reassured that it doesn't have to be black and white. It's not just taking the word for what it is. It's more than that. It's interpreting things differently. It's bouncing it off of somebody else and saying, well, how do you do this? How do you interpret this?
Right.
And if we're honest, I think if we even dumb it down even further than that, it's like everything that matters to us is personal. Like it's very personalized. It's very individualized. And if I go to Ken or if I go to Travis and I'm like, hey, I'm struggling with this, they may give me something that's based in a morality as opposed to religion.
Right.
And it may help me. And that's where I think religion can lend itself to you.
Yeah, there's overlap in all of that. You know what I mean? Like a lot of like kind of what you were touching on and living as like a moral person, there's overlap in that because, you know, ultimately, and you know, according to Christians, Jesus was the ultimate moral person. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's things that you can take away from that, and they don't have to be religious. You know what I mean? Like the morality and the religious can overlap, but it doesn't necessarily mean that one is the other.
Well,
you know,
just to kind of join in on that, I would say my morals are probably based upon religion anyway. Probably that aspect of things and what you're taught are good things.
Right. And I feel like, and this is my only not argument, but my only like cause or whatever to promote Christianity in any way. Because I'm never going to be the type of person that's going to convert you. If you come to me and tell me where you're at, I'm only going to meet you with openness and understanding because I've been on the other side of that. And that men's retreat could have gone way differently. You know what I mean? They could have shut down. They could have like attacked you, try to convert you. You know what I mean? And in Baptist churches and a lot of other religions, there's no room for doubt. You know what I mean? But there has to be room for doubt. There has to be room for questions, because if not, and you're just told to blindly believe because of faith, then, you know, it's going to fall apart at some point. You know what I mean? But my whole point is like, I'm never going to be the type of person to try and convert you. But the only thing that I'll say in favor of like Christianity, and not even Christianity, but just trying to follow more of Jesus's character, is that it'll take that morality to another level. There's things that you can learn from his examples that will help you be an even better and even more moral and even more open, loving, understanding person. And I only say that because it's been true in my life. You know what I mean? I thought I was a moral person. Like, you know, my mother and my stepdad, they raised me well, I would say, you know what I mean? Like I have good sense of right and wrong. But kind of in the process of rebuilding my faith and going this route, like I've learned new ways to be a more helpful person than I would have been if I didn't, you know what I mean? So that's my only like, you know, call to action, I guess I would say, is like, just try to be the best person that you can. And if you're trying to find an example, there's a pretty good example in this.
Agreed.
All right. So you guys ready to get into the truth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm going to kick it off, man. So today, man, my truth's going to be a little unorthodox, but I think it's very relevant, man. And I want to say, as here we are, James and myself, Anthony included in that, you know, we have a little something we're trying to do here. And lately I've understood, man, like we've been so fortunate and so lucky to have so many of our personal friends kind of be supportive of us. And I just thought, man, that's something I'd like to share and understand that people, man, out there, if you can, support your friends. You know what I mean? Support the people that are trying to better themselves, that are trying to do something. And so with that, man, I want to give a big shout out to some of the people that I know that do things that are trying to get some things going. I'm gonna start that off with One Motive Print Co. It's my friend James here, man. If you guys notice these gentlemen's t-shirts today, he made both of those shirts. He's a fucking perfectionist, and you know you're gonna get quality merchandise when he jumps into that. Next, shout out to my boy Willie, Whoop Ass Willie. He's a barber, man. He does his thing. On Instagram too, I'm gonna tag everybody on here that I'm saying. So you guys, if you need a haircut, man, my boy Willie will hook you up right. Tell him that Ken sent you. However, you will not be getting a discount, so don't think that.
He might charge you more.
This is one of those.
Mentioning Ken, he might charge you more.
Yeah, he'll probably talk a lot of shit about me. You'll have a good time, though. He's a funny guy. You'll enjoy him, and he does a lot of things anyway.
Tacos Negros as well.
Yeah, Tacos Negros as well, man. Yeah, way to go, man. Yeah, Tacos Negros as well.
Fresh hot sauce.
Yeah, fresh hot sauce is definitely on my list, man. Fresh hot sauce. My cousin and his girl, man. They make an amazing hot sauce. They have three different kinds. I'll put all their Instagrams up so you can hit them up if you guys are interested in hot sauce.
Baked goods.
So if you're Travis and you like that little dash of salt, you know what I mean? They got one for you. You James, you in the middle, or you like me, you just a heat freak. They got everything you can have. 40 minutes to 5, man. My boy Ron, man.
Move the mic.
Yeah, let me move the mic. I moved it the wrong way.
There you go. 40 minutes to 5.
I say, goddamn, you know what I mean? So there's that, man. He's making sweaters, he's making shirts, man. He's doing his thing too. The Audio Files podcast, man. They've been big supporters, man. If you guys like music, they review music every week, which will jump me right into the next one. It's my other boy Ernie, man, and his squad. They got rap beats and melodies. Another podcast there, man. If you guys got the chance, man, go follow them on Instagram. Check their videos out. Check their podcast out. Check the merchandise out. Check the hot sauce out. Get your hair cut. Whatever the fuck you need, man. I pretty much laced everybody up. Yeah. Check them out, man. And also, if you guys have people that you want to support or that are your friends are doing something and you should support, get up there and do it. You know what I mean? Show some love.
Oh, Willie also has the gym going.
Oh yeah. He does have the gym going too, man. And he's out there. If you want to work out, you're an adult. You got it. You got kids.
Kids classes.
Yeah, he got kid classes, man. And my boy Willie's a motherfucking entrepreneur, dude. That guy's out there trying to grind. So support all day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Shout out to all of you guys, man. I appreciate the love you've given me. There's a little love back. And there's my truth.
Okay. I'll go ahead and take it from here. My truth is gonna be this. I think as I go through my days, like Travis said earlier, you self-reflect a lot. And for me, I just want to say that I've never. So my truth is gonna be towards people, right? Individuals. Crystal has stepped in when I need her to step in on this podcast specifically. She's done her thing with me. She's always been there for me. But I don't think I've ever been pushed at the level that she pushes me. And the crazy part about it all is that she doesn't try harder than anybody else. And I've been pushed by girls before, hard.
Yeah.
She like pushes me slightly.
Knows how to do it.
She knows how to do it. And she just she has a way of getting me to like understand like there's big mountains to climb. And she pushes me in a way where I see these mountains as like small victories. So I just want to say, like, I'm just fortunate to be in a situation with somebody who is my partner in life and I can count on, and that pushes me like no one else has ever pushed me, and with ease. And that's the biggest part about it. She does it so effortlessly, and I couldn't be happier just based off of what she adds to my life. And I'm saying this right now because I at times think like, am I doing enough? Am I personally doing enough? And you guys know me. I try to do the most, but am I listening enough? Am I interacting enough? Am I trying enough? Am I putting enough energy in? And based off of what she's giving me, I got to understand that maybe I am doing enough, right? For her. But I just want to give her a lot of credit for what she's doing personally in my life. So I want to give my truth to her and just say, hands down, the love that's there, it's motivating. It pushes me. And she even told me she likes how she can influence me, and she sees the goals implant themselves in me and just run with it. So I know it's working. I know she understands that her influence is working, and I can't ask for anything better than that in a partner. The second thing is I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Gilbert.
Oh yes.
Look at Gilbert, yes. Young tree.
Yeah, little branch.
Just this guy is a great fucking person, first of all.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Second of all, anytime, so he's expecting a baby girl, I believe.
Yeah, a girl. Right? Yeah.
So anytime I have people in my life that are celebrating life, I gotta give more to that. I gotta give love to that. I gotta give praise to that. I gotta let everybody know that this is what life's about. It's about pushing the boundaries of where you are, getting into it, and just diving head on. And he's at the stage now where I think he's ready.
Yeah.
And I just got nothing but love for him. I know I seen a ton of love coming through Instagram from Ken and Anthony congratulating him. I just want him to know that we look up to him. We
look down on you, but we look up to you.
but we look at him as somebody who like should be in that position, right?
Yeah.
Like that can handle that position.
Yeah.
And when we have someone like that, it's a fucking beautiful thing, man.
And
so
legit,
huge shout out to them.
And shout out to his girl Martha as
well.
Yeah.
Everybody. You know, that whole group right there.
Yeah.
That little family unit that's starting.
Yeah.
We got to give love to that. And
love it.
I love that shit.
Love it. Support it, man. Wish you guys the best.
Congratulations.
James, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, I could not.
Shout out to my boy and his lady, man. All love there.
Yep.
So before I get into my truth, I just want to say, James, like, you know, I didn't know you all that well, and I feel like I've gotten to know you even better over these last couple of weeks. And I just want to say I'm impressed and I'm very inspired by you. I mentioned this book, you know what I mean, last episode, probably more times than I remember mentioning it. But the fact that you, like, I didn't have to text it to you or send you an Amazon link or encourage you. Like, you were just like, oh, yeah, that one? Okay. And then come to find out, you know, less than a week later, you're already almost done with it. Like, that's impressive to me. That tells to me that you are actually legit, a genuine person. You want to better yourself, and you're not so, you know, you're not arrogant or conceited in the sense that you think that you know it all. You're willing and open to learning from other people, and especially like someone like myself, who's, you know what I mean, just another person.
Shut up.
So
the fuck
no, but all I'm saying is like,
son of a bitch.
I'm impressed by you and I'm inspired by you, and the fact that you're open to people, and that kind of leads me into my truth. Is that if someone comes to you with a problem or with a question or, you know, whatever it may be, and they're trusting you, first of all, you should take that as an honor, right? Because they could have chosen any other person. They could have chosen to blast it on Instagram in some vague tweet, you know what I mean? Like, they could have gone many different ways. But if they come to you and seeking answers or guidance or help or whatever it may be, first of all, take that as an honor and treat it with the respect that it deserves. And meet it with openness and kindness. Don't just jump down their throat and tell them what they need to do. You know what I mean? And the reason I bring this up is because, like, when I started this whole journey, I would say, you know what I mean? I came across a lot of people that if they had been that way, it would have just shut me right down, and I would have never taken it any further. You know what I mean? And it could have easily gone that way. And that's how it had gone for a long time when I was, you know, in the Baptist community and stuff. But the fact that people are open and, you know, they're willing to listen and meet you with that kind of, like, you know, that generosity or whatever. And that makes all the difference in the world. So shout out to my buddy JP. He's been one of the biggest people in my life that's kind of helped me on this journey. And shout out to my smoking hot wife, Stephanie, because without her, I wouldn't have been even open or gone to church in the first place. And that's how it all started. She invited me to go, and I went, and, you know what I mean? That's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, just treat people with respect and treat the opportunity to be a part of their lives on a deeper level with the respect that it deserves, and be open and just be kind. That's it.
I love that.
Yeah. That was awesome, Travis. Thank you. James, to you as well. Shout out to Crystal as well. Let me just say, man, I can see the impact Crystal has played in your world, as I've known you before Crystal and now. And I can definitely see it, man. It's definitely been a positive thing. And all right, guys, fucking awesome episode.
Yeah, make sure you guys are following on Instagram. Make sure you guys are sharing it with somebody. Make sure you guys are hitting up the YouTube, subscribing. We were talking last week about breaking 100.
Yeah,
we're over it. We're
Travis,
over that shit.
Travis, you sandbagging son of a bitch, you. Okay,
what do
you
you
went
mean?
and shared us, and now look at the impact you've. That's what he told me to. Well, you better bring me back. I've already brought you up to.
That is not what I said.
That's exactly what he said. He said, "You guys owe me everything."
Travis, you are invited back any fucking time you want.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And honestly, days where we don't have no one,
Yeah.
I don't think that we're not gonna invite you. Like you just might show up more often than not.
yeah.
I'm happy
You know
to
what
be
I mean?
here. So as long as you guys are
And
happy to
again,
have me, I'll be here.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah,
John Stamos.
yeah. We had that legally binding before. But
Yeah.
Like,
I'll
fuck.
sign. You got a paper? I'll sign it.
Yeah. So it's been good. Also, I just want everybody to know, Men of Means is now on TikTok. We're now on TikTok. So I just want to apologize to everybody I talked about shit about TikTok to. First of all,
get with the times.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I just want to say this. I like TikTok so much better than Instagram now.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
No, and honestly, I'm just saying this straight out because like you remember when Facebook was like getting old and you moved to Instagram, you're like, oh, this is way better because you want to deal with the bullshit.
I never had a Facebook.
Okay, well,
yes, I do remember that.
Okay.
Yes,
you know when it was like Facebook was getting too emotional,
yeah,
and you'd move over to Instagram.
Yeah, it was more what you were looking for, just lighthearted distraction.
Yes. So now TikTok has been that, but Menameans is just. I want to say 2 days ago I launched. So follow us on TikTok, Menameans podcast on TikTok.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you right now, everything has grown since then. Our last episode on YouTube has grown. Is now our most viewed video on YouTube.
Awesome.
And that played a part in all of it.
Nice.
So
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
And I was doing that independently because I was getting more into social media marketing. So just to grow that, I understand that's where we got to be. So, guys, if you just want to get on TikTok and follow us, go ahead, download it. Menameans podcast on TikTok.
Can we expect any of the trendy dances? That,
no.
Okay.
Whoa.
Can you help with that?
Can you help probably can.
All right.
We'll get Ken on there.
Busted challenge coming soon.
All right.
Oh no, the silhouette challenge.
Hey.
That's what's hot now. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Give me a red light. I'm fucking in.
But I just want to encourage everybody not to think that TikTok is not. It's not for kids. It's simply entertainment now.
Yeah.
I actually have a TikTok.
Yeah.
And
But
me
Menameans
too.
podcast on TikTok. Go ahead and give us a follow. We're doing pretty goddamn well. I'll just tell you that right now. And it has led, because I'll tell you this right now, just in the vein of being honest with everybody, our YouTube, we keep pushing. And then now that we're on TikTok, literally, again, the highest views. I linked everything up together. And we got a lot of views, and people like what we're doing on there. So make sure you guys follow us on TikTok. If you guys are on the platform, make sure you guys are following us because you don't want to be outside of it. So it's been a great thing for us.
Well, I'm just gonna say this: I am thoroughly impressed with you, James, yet again.
I'm trying to push those numbers up.
Initiative.
I'm trying to push those numbers up.
So Travis, you get no credit.
It's fine. I didn't want it. You were putting words in my mouth.
No, you.
No, sincerely, I'm just grateful to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, since I say all this shit, just kidding. I don't mean none of
Me
it.
too.
I'm just grateful to be a part of it. I'm appreciative of everything. Great job. I'm just taken back at the moment by the fucking the dedication that people have, man, and all the support, and yeah. So,
And on that note,
okay, bye.